in hand. Through such green growth that accelerates green tech innovation and the low-carbon structural transition, we must simultaneously achieve both sustainability and a macroeconomic leap forward. In addition, the low birth rate, aging population, and the subsequent decline in potential growth rates pose severe threats to the sustainability of global economy. In this era of great transition, as the OECD has rightly pointed out, we must focus our strategic investment on growth potential. Through these structural efforts, we must secure fiscal sustainability and alleviate the burden on future generations. OECD plays a pivotal role in this era of grand transition. Through evidence-based policy analysis, pioneering discussion on international standards, and trust-based policy dialogues among member states, the OECD helps us make better choices. In particular, the OECD's initiatives regarding industrial policy, AI governance, supply chain resilience, trade and investment, and climate and inclusive growth are more vital now than ever before. In alignment with these efforts, the Republic of Korea is actively pursuing industrial policies and structural reform based on these right principles. We are simultaneously enhancing the competitiveness of our strategic industries and reforming regulations while firmly upholding the framework of a fair competitive order and international cooperations. Notably, while steadfastly maintaining fiscal sustainability, Korea is strategically investing in high innovative sectors like AI to boost our growth potential and create a virtuous cycle of growth where increased resources are reinvested into the future. Furthermore, for emerging industries and startups, we have adopted a negative regulation principle, competition-friendly regulation reform to maximize private sector dynamism. Distinguished guests, Korea's remarkable growth experience over past 3 decades was made possible because it has been firmly anchored in market openness, the promotion of competition, and private sector innovation. Now, we find ourselves in a challenging global environment. However, what we must truly pursue is not zero-sum game, draining competition between nations, but rather a race to the top for better policies that transform the very fabric of the global economy. We must aim for market complementing rather than market distortions, broader inclusion rather than exclusion, and long-term prosperity rather than short-term fixes. As a vice chair of this year's MCM and marking the 30th anniversary of our accession to the OECD, the Republic of Korea will strictly abide by the open trade order and actively participate in international dialogue on the digital supply chain and green transitions. Together with fellow OECD member states, Korea will fulfill its responsibilities in forging a more open, innovative, inclusive, and sustainable global economy. Thank you very much.
Now, for the MCM Vice Chair, New Zealand, please welcome Minister for Trade and Investment, Mr. Todd McClay.
Well, kia ora, bonjour, and good morning. I'd like to thank and acknowledge His Excellency President Stubb and Prime Minister Orpo from Finland for Finland's leadership of this year's MCM. Also for bringing one of your most well-known visitors to New Zealand every year. You're right, Santa Claus does deliver. Can I also acknowledge Vice Minister Hao Jun and fellow Vice Chair, and congratulate Korea on its 30-year anniversary of OECD membership. Thank you, Secretary-General Mathias. We greatly value your work and that of your team in bringing together policy expertise and analysis on the increasingly complex challenges confronting the world today. New Zealand reaffirms its support to the OECD and is widely recognised and will no doubt be reinforced over the next 2 days. The current global geopolitical climate is at a concerning level. The OECD's evidence-based policy analysis is critical in helping all of us navigate current global shocks. These shocks are having real impacts on our economies and the livelihoods of our citizens. 12 months ago, I raised New Zealand's concerns about a worsening geostrategic environment, particularly the sustained pressure the international rules-based trading system is under. Sadly, a year on, and post-MC14, those concerns have only intensified, and the pressure on global rules-based trade continues to escalate. This strain is driving amplified global trade uncertainty and threatening global economic growth. We're also seeing pressure on international maritime rules and norms around territorial sovereignty and the use of military force. Some of this is playing out in events far from New Zealand, such as Russia's illegal war in the Ukraine and Iran's effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Other sources of tension are closer to home in the South China Sea. The implications of all of these events are far-reaching, and it's not only small economies like New Zealand which suffer because of events, we are all affected. It's precisely in times like these we must remember why institutions like the OECD exist. By utilising the experience around the table, we can work together, collaborate, and build trust to find consensus on solutions to common challenges. We commend the global outlook of the OECD, particularly the continued work under the Indo-Pacific particularly under the Indo-Pacific Strategic Framework. Today, we're also celebrating 10-year anniversary of the Latin America and Caribbean Regional Programme. We also commend the work of the OECD towards a new enhanced partnership with Africa. It is New Zealand's view that working with countries outside of the OECD provides real added value to the OECD. That's why it's great to see so many accession countries here at this year's MCM. New Zealand welcomes the progress made by all accession countries. And as we move through the next 2 days in Paris, and indeed as we work through our own economic issues over the coming months, I remind members that international trade rules are important. Rules provide predictability, certainty, confidence, and fair conditions. That helps our businesses to take risks, to innovate, to grow. It helps them trade with each other. In short, we all stand to benefit from adherence to rules which govern international trade and open markets. And I have had the privilege of working with many of you in the room on rules which govern cross-border trade and investment, supply chain resilience, and the digital economy, amongst many other areas. I close by referencing the importance of this year's theme, which centres on getting industrial policy right for open markets, growth and prosperity. At a time when many countries are looking inward, we remind members that industry policy should not become a proxy for protectionism or unilateralism. That benefits no one. I look forward to working with all of you over the next 2 days alongside Finland as our host and chair and Korea on the complex issues that face all of us. Thank you.
Please welcome from Ukraine, the Deputy Prime Minister for European and Euro-Atlantic Integration, Mr. Taras Kachka.
Good morning. So, dear Chair, Prime Minister Orpo, dear Vice Chairs, dear Secretary General Cormann, and distinguished ministers, It is an honor for me to speak to you and to address OECD Ministerial Council meeting, take into account that OECD was one of the very first international organizations that condemned Russian aggression, and from the very first days of massive aggression helped us a lot in creating this enormous solidarity that we cherish and we really appreciate. It helped us to survive and to defend our territory and people and values and everything that is important for all of us. And that's why for me it is important to talk about industrial policy, because industrial policy is always perceived as something very selfish, something very egoistic. And but we know that we need to be together and promote solidarity among ourselves in order to survive and compete. So that's here I would like to break all the rules of speeches and start with something bad examples of what the discussion that we have on steel in WTO and here in OECD, and most recent measures introduced by the closest partner, European Union, are actually risking to damage Ukrainian economy on more than 1% of GDP. But I think that we will find a solution in the forthcoming weeks, and this risk will not be something negative that overshadow the very important and lifeline support that we got from OECD members, from all member states, from the European Union and other partners. And what the core element of this support is ensuring the resilience of civil life against Russian damages. And this is the core and the heart of industrial policy, because you helped us a lot in order to ensure that the whole infrastructure, energy infrastructure, telecom infrastructure and other infrastructure is operating. And we discovered how interoperable we are and where we are fragile in terms of supply chains and production of different spare parts or equipment. OECD helped us to ensure that this cooperation can work, so that our administration are working the same language. It's, you know, that it's, someone will say that it thanks to teachers of English classes, but I rather say that we need to thank the public administration reform and OECD Sigma, that our administration and bureaucracy works and talks in the same language as you are, so that here OECD and many years of investment into reform actually helped us in the most urgent and difficult times. It is more than just public administration, so the policy on state-owned enterprises and ownership policy that we developed together with OECD experts, and public procurements and many other reforms that have been implemented long before the war started help us to talk in the same language and help you to help us in this difficult time. So we really appreciate this work, and we need to continue with it. So that thanks to reforms, we all managed to cooperate. This is the biggest lesson for all of us in this modern world. Final remark is about the new dimension of industrial policy. So OECD is an organization where a lot of peaceful policies were developed, post-war policies were developed. And unfortunately, now we have countries like Russia that want to make war a legitimate tool of governmental policy. And it's quite interesting that this war is damaging our industries, so in Ukraine and elsewhere in the world as well. But the most efficient reply to all this aggression and aggression against our civilization is industrial policy and production of weapons and other things that our defense industry use. And we started with military support of our partners, and we still rely on your support in conventional weapons. But the new weapon like UAVs and the ecosystem developed around it is a game changer in the investment in our future peace. And this is an ecosystem that combines human techness and managerial techniques, logistics and other things, and most of all technologies that are advancing so fast. And that's why we need to cooperate and to ensure that our industrial policy are helping us to defend our weapons. And here we need to ensure that we have a solidarity between all of us because we see that supply chain in this area should really be in line with security cooperation and solidarity. We need to avoid any dependencies on the markets and producers that share different values and compete with us in security as well. And when we are talking about trust, I think that the most recent invitation of Ukraine to anti-bribery convention and our joining anti-bribery convention is also another tool of building trust to each other. So just to conclude, I would like to say that all our experience with your support to us showed that when we combine our efforts in helping trade, economic policy and industrial policy, we can manage to win the wars and all competitions we face. So thank you for your cooperation and hope to cooperate in future as well. Thank you.
Please remain seated and thank again our speakers, President Stubb, Secretary General Cormann, Prime Minister Orpo, Second Vice Minister Howe, Minister Maclay, and Deputy Prime Minister Kachka. Now, to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the OECD Latin America and the Caribbean Regional Program, we invite to the stage the Secretary General, the co-chairs, Costa Rica and Uruguay, Ms. Indiana Trejos Gallo and Ms. Valeria Sucasi, and for the host of the program's 2026 Ministerial Dialogue, Ms. Susana Sumelto of Spain.
Hoy celebramos una década de diálogo, cooperación y reformas que han fortalecido las instituciones de nuestros países y consolidado una agenda regional más integrada y orientada al bienestar y las oportunidades para nuestra población.
En este tiempo, el programa se consolidó como una plataforma de diálogo en un contexto regional e internacional desafiante. Ha desempeñado